Regular people love nothing more than starting fights that they have virtually no chance of winning, something that leaves them wide open for some hilariously brutal consequences. For today's video, we're going to take a look at 8 dumb regular guys who make the mistake of challenging pro-level fighters. Let's get into it. If you know anything about this channel, you'll know we have a fondness for watching fake martial artists get their comeuppance. But to his credit, this kung fu fighter was able to fight to at least some degree. And when he stepped in there with the former UFC fighter Nam Phan, he did pretty well, even though he had a size advantage. But pretty well is just about the best way we can say for his performance. In reality, he was always going to have a tough time in there with a seasoned veteran like Phan. At first, the pair slugged it out in a pretty competitive, albeit sloppy affair. Phan was definitely landing the bigger shots, but it was a solid contest. However, once stamina started to come into play, you could see things moving against the kung fu fighter. And once Phan had hurt him for the first time and dropped into the canvas, the fight could have been stopped then and there. To his credit, the kung fu guy decided he wasn't through fighting just yet. And so, Nam Phan obliged him, knocking him out once and for all in brutal fashion. A clean finish from this UFC veteran. When this street fighting troll decided to get right up in the face of this mixed martial artist and very publicly declare that he'd beat him in a fight, well, that was his first mistake. His second mistake was actually showing up a few months later to get his beating at the rival's gym. Because if you're looking for one of the most dramatic examples of a skill gap that you'll ever see, look no further. This was so insanely uncompetitive. The street fighter had no grasp of timing, of balance, or any sort of footwork. And so the MMA fighter was able to basically coast his way through this session. He didn't even look like he was getting out of second gear. Every powerful shot he landed seemed to be knocking his opponent off balance. And when he realized his rival posed absolutely zero threat to him, he started to toy with him a bit, dropping his hands and extended the punishment by landing leg and body kicks. Sometimes a troll like this guy needs to learn a lesson, and it's pretty safe to say that this MMA fighter was quite helpful in that regard. So this next guy seemed to think it was a good idea to stroll on into this BJJ gym and question the legitimacy of jiu-jitsu as a fighting form. Thankfully, he was dumb enough to think he could back up his words, and so he willingly stepped into the cage with a grappler who intended to show him the error of his ways. And yeah, this guy did not have any grappling talents at all. Every takedown was successful. Every transition saw the BJJ fighter achieve his desired position. And it didn't take long for him to get the tap. But here's the crazy part. As soon as he was tapped, he immediately went back into stubborn mode, claiming that the grappler simply got lucky.
Again. Yeah, you got lucky. Oh, you got lucky.
And so they went at it again for round 2. And this time, the tap came by choke even easier. This guy had absolutely no defensive awareness, so cutting through his protective measures couldn't have been easier. But again, this dude tried to call it a fluke. Yeah, you heard me. He legitimately wasn't convinced by this BJJ fighter's ability to easily submit him twice in quick succession. And so he needed to be taught one final lesson. And this time the armbar was the chosen submission. How the hell could one guy be so deluded and insanely stubborn? He desperately needed to join a gym and learn some humility. That much is clear. These big guys just don't ever learn, do they? This dude decided to walk into this gym and challenge a much smaller boxer, thinking that his size would make up for his total lack of finesse in the boxing department. Well, after scoring one decent punch early on, his success levels took a real nosedive from that point onward. He just couldn't get his rhythm going. And like so many other bullies in his position, There were several points where he tried to walk away and call off the fight, maybe so he could save his reputation to some degree. But he wasn't getting off the hook that easy. No, his opponent wanted that knockout shot, and he was willing to beat this guy pretty badly so he could get it. Eventually, once the bully's gas tank failed him, we were looking at one-way traffic. And finally, when the damage and effort became too much to handle, this big guy slumped over in defeat against the ropes, damn near falling out of the ring in the process. Look, if you're claiming to be a pro boxer, you may have to deal with the consequences of your words. Because the thing is, while there are thousands upon thousands of pro fighters who are absolutely awful at boxing, they are considered professionals only because they cash a paycheck. But if you walk into a boxing ring and start yapping on about being a pro, don't be surprised if you end up with an actual fighter in front of you looking to test your limits. And for the guy in the blue and red shorts, he seemed to think that he was a lot better than he was. This coach even let him tee off with a number of punches at the beginning of the spar, laughing in his face as he basically told him they were having zero effect. And then came his own offense, which the so-called pro had absolutely no answer for. Yet another case of some random idiot talking his way into a beating that his ego was surely bruised by as much as his body. This guy clearly needs boxing lessons, even if he has taken a pro fight in the past. This next one is the kind of satisfying beatdown we just love to feature on this channel. This guy was so incredibly cocky in the lead up to this fight, showing absolutely no respect for his opponent's skills, or just basic respect in any sense. They were signed up for a bare-knuckle fight, and it was clear that this guy was going to try and use any trick in the book to get a reaction from his opponent. But his rival was far calmer, more stoic, and seemingly more fixated on the task at hand. Even in the final seconds before this bout kicked off, he was trying to provoke a reaction, not knowing that his punishment was a matter of seconds away. Some guys just deserve to lose, there's no other way to put it. And in this case, the first knockdown came pretty early on, as his opponent recklessly charged into range and got caught. From there, it was only a matter of time before he was battered to the point of not being able to continue. This was karma at its finest, folks. One of these guys, the shorter dude with the afro, decided to relentlessly troll this pro MMA prospect Lorenzo Trevino online, promising him that he'd beat him up badly if their paths ever crossed inside the cage. Who knows why he believed it so firmly, or why he picked on a 2-0 professional, but eventually Lorenzo invited him down to the gym and proceeded to make a fool out of him in this viral beating. The speed, the footwork, the technique, the power, the head movement. The advantages were all clearly on one side here. You just can't step into a fight with someone this much better than you and expect to have good results. And when this street fighter decides to try and punch, just look at how hilarious his form is. Thankfully, this video went viral enough that this wannabe bully probably was forced to accept that he had some serious problems with delusion, but you never know with guys like this. He seems like the type of guy who would still be stubborn despite this clear proof of his terrible skills. In the end, Trevino wasn't merciless in there. He didn't go out to totally ruin the guy, but he did confidently beat him up and made a pretty firm statement in doing so. If these two were fighting in a phone booth and the skinnier dude couldn't get away, then maybe, just maybe, he might have done better than he did here. But man, the difference between someone who looks tough and someone who actually knows how to fight is the primary theme of this video, and we're really outdoing ourselves with these picks. The bodybuilder has all the strength and muscular density in the world, but those short, stiff arms aren't reaching their target, and his total lack of head movement, footwork, and offensive trap setting makes him an incredibly easy target for his opponent here. It's almost comical how wide some of his misses are, like he's just putting his head down, staring at the ground and hoping for the best as he puts every possible ounce of force into his swings. But none of them land, and eventually, like so many other fighters we featured in this video, he crumbles, runs out of steam, and becomes little more than a heavy bag for his opponent. A total mismatch in every sense of the word. And the true boxer here barely looks like he's breaking a sweat. That should tell you everything you need to know about this pairing.